By 1789, the world Napoleon Bonaparte had known was collapsing. France, once the cultural center of Europe and the seat of an absolute monarchy, was spiraling into financial ruin, political paralysis, and social unrest. The ideas of the Enlightenment, liberty, equality, reason, and citizenship were spreading across the country like a spark racing along dry powder. The old structures of privilege, inherited power, and aristocratic dominance were no longer seen as natural. They were seen as obstacles. For a young artillery officer whose talent mattered more than his lineage, this changing landscape would open doors that had been sealed for centuries. Throughout the late 1780s, food shortages, rising bread prices, and failed harvests created desperation among the lower classes. At the same time, the government's debts and extravagance fueled anger toward the nobility and the monarchy. In an attempt to calm tensions, King Louis XVI summoned the Estates General in May 1789, the first meeting of its kind in over 170 years. What began as an attempt to resolve financial issues quickly transformed into a revolution of national identity. Napoleon observed these developments with sharp attention. Though he was stationed far from Paris, he read newspapers obsessively, analyzing each shift in power as if studying a battlefield. He saw that the revolution challenged the aristocratic officer corps, which had always limited the advancement of talented yet low-born officers like himself. The fall of the old regime meant that individuals of merit could rise swiftly, limited only by their ability and ambition. For Napoleon, the revolution was not just a political event, it was a window of opportunity. That summer, France erupted. On July 14, 1789, revolutionaries stormed the Bastille, a fortress symbol of royal power. Though more symbolic than strategic, the fall of the Bastille ignited a nationwide revolt. The monarchy's authority crumbled, and municipalities across France formed revolutionary committees. The country entered a period where no one knew what tomorrow would bring. Chaos intertwined with possibility. Napoleon, still a lieutenant, returned to Corsica shortly after the revolution began. His homeland was also undergoing political transformation. Freed from heavy French oversight, Corsicans debated whether to embrace the revolution or pursue independence. Napoleon initially supported Pasquale Paoli's nationalist movement, believing that Corsica might find its own destiny. But as the months passed, it became increasingly clear that Paoli's vision did not align with the ideals Napoleon now embraced. Paoli saw the young Bonaparte as overly ambitious, too aligned with France, and dangerously eager for change. Napoleon, in turn, saw Paoli as an outdated figure tied to a past that no longer had a place in the new political order. Their relationship deteriorated rapidly, and eventually, Paoli denounced the Bonaparte family as traitors to Corsica. Forced to flee, the family left for France. This exile severed the last link between Napoleon and the island of his childhood. The revolution continued to escalate. By 1790, the National Assembly was rewriting the political structure of France. The military, long dominated by noble officers, experienced major reforms. Many aristocratic officers, uncomfortable with the direction of the revolution, resigned or fled the country. This created a vacuum that ambitious young officers like Napoleon could fill. During this period, he submitted political writings to revolutionary clubs, expressing support for French unity and criticizing the inefficiency of the monarchy. His style was bold, assertive, and occasionally confrontational, traits that foreshadowed the leadership style he would later adopt on a much larger stage. By 1791, Napoleon was promoted to the rank of first lieutenant. He had advanced more through intellectual rigor and relentless effort than through connections or privilege. He continued to study strategy and logistics, tracking political developments with the same analytical precision he applied to artillery calculations. He was not simply watching history unfold, he was preparing for the moment when he could step into it. In 1792, tensions between France and Austria escalated into war. Austria demanded the restoration of Louis XVI's full authority, and France responded by declaring war. What followed was a disastrous campaign for the French army. Inexperienced troops, disorganized supply lines, and widely distrusted commanders created a chaotic front line. This instability further weakened the monarchy and emboldened radical revolutionaries in Paris. Napoleon saw that France's military collapse was a direct result of outdated doctrine and poor leadership. The revolution had created ideological chaos, but it had also stripped away the rigid conservatism that had dominated the army. For someone who believed that warfare should be fast, flexible, and mathematically precise, this was a moment of transformation. The French army was being rebuilt from the ground up, and he intended to shape its future. When the monarchy fell in August 1792, France became a republic. The execution of Louis XVI in January 1793 shocked Europe and deepened the political divide within France. Civil war erupted in regions like the Vendée, and foreign monarchies formed coalitions to crush the revolution. Yet for Napoleon, this turmoil offered clarity. The revolution had made advancement possible in a way that his father's generation could never have dreamed of. His loyalty now lay firmly with France, not Corsica, not Paoli, not the old system. In May 1793, Napoleon was appointed as a commander of artillery in the Army of Italy. It was an assignment that placed him closer to important theaters of war. But before he even reached Italy, crisis erupted that would become his first major opportunity: the siege of Toulon. Royalists in the port city had risen against the Republic and welcomed British and Spanish fleets. Toulon, with its naval base, was critical for France's survival. The government urgently needed officers who could act decisively. Napoleon, barely 24, stepped forward. Everything he had learned, mathematics, artillery science, logistics, strategy, converged at Toulon. His brilliance under pressure, his ability to reorganize forces, and his instinct for striking weaknesses would soon reveal him not merely as a competent officer, but as a commander whose potential reached far beyond conventional expectations. The revolution had unleashed chaos across France, but it had also created the perfect environment for extraordinary individuals to rise. Napoleon Bonaparte was now positioned at the threshold of his first great breakthrough, ready to demonstrate the military genius that would soon reshape Europe.